Here are 4 shapes on a square grid. Complete the table. So we have as property of shape is an octagon and has at least one right angle. And 2 of these shapes have been done for us. So shape A is not an octagon because remember, an octagon has 8 sides and shape A only has 6 sides. But shape A does have at least one right angle. Remember, a right angle is like the corner of a piece of paper or the corner of this screen. If you can't spot the right angles, they're at the very top up here and at the bottom of the shape. So we can see that it's a right angle because we go one down, one across, and then in the other direction we go one down, one across as well. Now they've done shape B for us as well. But it's useful to look at the table for the shapes even if they've been completed because this will remind us what an octagon and a right angle are and help us to complete shape C and shape D. So shape B is an octagon because it has 8 sides. So if you'd forgotten what an octagon is, you could remember or remind yourself of that by counting the sides of shape B. But shape B does not have at least one right angle. If we look at the angles, we have obtuse, 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 acute, reflex, reflex, and acute. So now let's work out shape C. Is it an octagon? Well, let's count the sides. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so it's not an octagon because an octagon has 8 sides. And shape C does not have one right angle. We can see that we've got obtuse, 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 and obtuse. So now let's look at shape D. We need to find whether it's an octagon so we can count the sides. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, so shape D is an octagon. And we can see that it has at least one right angle because we have a right angle here, a right angle here, and also right angles up here and down here. This container has 900 millilitres of water in it. Lara pours out some water so that it looks like this. How much water has Lara poured out? Well, first of all, we need to find out what each of these little lines represent. So, to get from 0 to 300, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. So if we work out 300 divided by 6, that will tell us what each line represents. 300 divided by 6 is 50, so each of these lines stands for 50. That means the water now is at 550. But the question wasn't asking us how much water is in this beaker now. The question was asking us how much has Lara poured out. So she started with 900 and now she has 550. So if we find the difference by subtracting, and we might need to use column method for this, but we get 350. So Lara has poured out 350 millilitres. Then she pours out another 150 millilitres of water. Draw an arrow to show the new level of the water. Well, we know that each of these lines stands for 50. So if she's poured out 150, that's 3 lots of 50. So our arrow is going to be 3 lines down from where it is here. Or we could work out that we have 550. So if we take 150 away, we will get 400. So because each of these lines stands for 50, we have 300, then 350 is the next line, and 400 will be the line above that. So we need to draw our arrow here. A shop sells books, CDs, and DVDs. This pie chart shows the sales of each in 1 week. Estimate the fraction of the total sales that were DVDs. So the fraction we have here for DVDs, so the part of the circle that's shaded white or not shaded, is 1/6. And we can see that because if we divide our circle into 6 equal pieces, DVDs make up one piece. So the fraction is 1/6. In this week, 200 CDs were sold. Estimate how many books were sold. So CDs is this part of the circle here, but we can see that books make up a much larger section of our pie chart. So how much larger is the section for books than the section for CDs? Well, if we copy the section for CDs, we can copy it 1, 2, 3 times. So there are 3 times as many books as there are CDs. Now we know that there are 200 CDs, so we can write 200 in each of these pieces, and then to work out the number of books, we just have 200 times 3. So there were 600 books sold. These are some prices in a fish and chip shop. Alfie buys 1 fish, a large bag of chips and a pickled onion. How much does he pay? Well, first let's find out how much 1 fish costs. That's £2.30. But he also buys a large bag of chips, and we want to know how much he pays altogether, so we need to add. A large bag of chips costs 90p, and I'm writing 90 pence like that because it makes it easier to add. £2.30 plus 90 pence is £3.20. Because 23 plus 9 is 32, so we can work this out mentally without needing to use column addition. He also buys a pickled onion, so we need to add another 28p. So we have £3.20, and if we add another 28 pence, that gives us £3.48. So Alfie pays £3.48. Now, Megan buys a sausage and a bread roll. Chen buys a small bag of chips and a curry sauce. How much more does Megan pay than Chen? So to answer this question, we need to work out how much Megan pays, then work out how much Chen pays, and then find the difference. So remember, we find the difference by subtracting. First, Megan buys a sausage, so that's £1.80, and a bread roll, so that's 30 pence. So altogether, she spends £2.10. Now Chen buys a small bag of chips, so that's 60 pence, and a curry sauce, so that's 40 pence. 60 pence plus 40 pence makes 100 pence, so £1. So how much more does Megan pay than Chen? Well, if we find the difference and work out £2.10 minus £1, we get £1.10 as our answer. Stefan has a bag that contains 3 blue marbles and 5 red marbles only. What fraction of the marbles in the bag are blue? So remember, with fractions, the numerator tells us how many we have, and the denominator tells us how many there are altogether. So we know that there are 3 blue marbles, but how many marbles are there altogether? Well, there are 3 blue and 5 red, so there are 8 marbles altogether, which means our fraction is 3/8. Now Stefan adds 1 blue marble and 1 red marble to the bag. What fraction of the marbles in the bag are blue now? Well, let's work out how many blue and red marbles there are now. If he's added 1 blue marble, then rather than 3, there are now 4 blue marbles, and he's added 1 red marble, so rather than 5 red marbles, we now have 6 red marbles. So what fraction of the marbles in the bag are blue now? Well, now we have 4 blue marbles, so our numerator will be 4, but we have 10 marbles altogether, because we now have 4 blue and 6 red, and that makes 10 altogether. So our numerator is how many we have, so that's 4. Our denominator is how many there are altogether, so that's 10. So our answer is 4/10. Now we could leave our answer like that, or we could simplify. 4 and 10 are both in the 2 times table, so if we divide both by 2, that gives us 2/5. Here are some pairs of numbers. For each pair, circle the number that is nearer to 5. So here we've got a whole number, but if we look at what we're comparing, we have decimals. So sometimes it's easier to put a 0.0 on the end of a whole number, because if we do that, then this question is just like circling the number that is nearer to 50 if we ignore the decimal points in our number. But for our first pair, we have 3.5 and 9.5. 3.5 is nearer to 5 because 3.5 is just 1.5 less, but 9.5 is 4.5 more. Now 2.5 and 5.5. Here the number that's nearer to 5 is 5.5. That's only 0.5 more, whereas 2.5 is 2.5 less than 5. And finally, we have 4.5 and 6.5. For this pair, the closest number to 5 is 4.5, because from 4.5 we only need another 0.5 to get to 5, whereas with 6.5 that's 1.5 more than 5.